My name is Mrs Maureen Berry. I've had a Stanmore Metal-on-Metal hip fitted in 1970, and in 1996 I had a hip resurfacing. The first hip was replaced by Mr Sneath, the second by Mr McMinn. The reason I had my hip done originally back in the 1970s was because my hips and socket had actually worn apart and I was dislocating, even just going to the toilet, the hip would dislocate. I had no ball or socket of any circumstance left. So I needed a total hip replacement, and it was deemed at the time that metal on metal would last longer than the metal and plastic that was being used more frequently at that time. 40 years on, I think I'm living proof that metal on metal is an excellent substitute for the bone hip that was absolutely of no use to me whatsoever.
Were you able to get back to a normal life after surgery? You know, once the recovery had finished, were you back to where you wanted to be?
Totally. I was totally back to where I wanted to be. It took probably 2 months to get back there, but I wasn't going to have a hip ruin my life. So yes, I went back to work. I would say I've had 2 children have been born with my metal hip. It stopped me from doing nothing that I've wanted to do. I went back to playing tennis, which was my main sport at the time. We were sort of quite a tennis family at the time. I went back to leading a normal, what I would call a normal, fairly active life of early 20s. The only thing I've never really done is swim, but that's not because of the hips, that's because I couldn't swim beforehand. So no, it stopped me from doing nothing that I've wanted to do.
How about dancing? Were you dancing?
Oh yes, yeah, I've been to clubs and things, yeah, clubbing it, yeah. I still go dancing now occasionally when the music isn't too loud.
Have you been particularly cautious with either hip to avoid damaging it in any way?
I haven't been particularly cautious. I'm not an overactive person, but it's, again, has not stopped me doing anything I've wanted to do. Regarding walking, there's no limits to how far I can walk, only insofar as that I don't particularly like walking. I'd rather get in the car and drive, but then that's my personal issues, not anything to do with the hips. Having had 2 children and now subsequently 4 grandchildren, I'm very grateful to a metal and metal hip. My children and my grandchildren have no concerns, as far as I can see at all, on any health issues. Both my daughter and my son swam very competitively and have represented the county at swimming. My son was a big rugby player and my daughter was a county hockey player. Academically, they both are degreed. My grandchildren are proving at this moment in time, although young, to be academically very sound. And I think it won't be long before they're teaching their grandmother things. That was the immense thing that I lost. I didn't realise how much pain I was in until I had the hip replacement, and then the pain had gone and it was just marvellous. And that's how I realised that I was having problems with my other hip, was I was getting the similar sort of symptoms with what I used to call my good hip as I'd had with my bad hip. And that then led to Mr McMinn doing the metal on metal resurfacing, which again has been brilliant. You can't express what it's like to be pain-free. Both surgeries, I was back at work probably quicker than I should have been, but then that's me. I don't want to sit around feeling sorry for myself, because that doesn't do anybody any good. So yes, as soon as I could, I was back driving. As soon as I was back at work, basically as soon as I came home, because I'm in a very lucky situation that with my second hip, we had our own business, so it was a case of I could go to work when I chose and come home when I chose. It wasn't a problem. I mean, health-wise, I've got absolutely no health issues at all, as far as I know, to the extent that having lived somewhere where we live now for 32 years, the local pharmacist, when I did have to go and get prescription, didn't know who I was and said I wasn't even registered with them because I use the doctor so infrequently, which is wonderful. I'm on no medication whatsoever, unlike my husband, who is very fit, very healthy, and he's got high blood pressure. I haven't.
Is your hearing and your eyesight okay?
Hearing is fine, eyesight is atrocious, but again that is nothing to do with the hips because I've had an eyesight problem since I was young. I've just got very, very bad short-sightedness, and it's just pure and simple short-sightedness.
And any allergic reactions or rashes with jewellery or metal in it?
No rashes whatsoever with jewellery. To be fair, I was quite astounded when I heard about it because my metal-on-metal hip has caused me no problems whatsoever, as far as I could, as far as I know. I mean, I don't know because I haven't had a bone-on-bone hip since I was in my early 20s, so I don't know whether that would have caused me any more or less problems than having a metal-on-metal. I would think that probably the metal-on-metal is easily as good. Some other friends of mine who actually haven't had metal-on-metal, they've either had metal-on-plastic or ceramic, have had horrendous problems.
What kind of problems have they had?
Well, a friend of mine is on his 5th hip and he was on a ceramic.
And when did he have it? What age was he when he had his first?
40s. He actually had he was in the army and he was doing something on a telegraph pole and he fell off and it did something to his hips, and he was in his early 40s. And this was in Wales, and he went to Cardiff and they did ceramic because they said ceramic was harder than metal. And as I say, I think he's on his 4th or his 5th hip. They've actually had to take the hips out completely. He's been wheelchair bound and all sorts of horrendous problems he's had.
The MHRA, which is a regulatory body for the UK, says that all metal-on-metal total hip patients should now have regular blood tests and x-rays. In fact, every year they should be tested.
Yeah, I heard that.
If we apply this to your case, you've had your hip for 40 years now. That's 40 sets of x-rays and 40 blood tests. Do you think that's a reasonable thing to do?
No. I think it should be checked. I don't know necessarily whether you need to have x-rays, because I think if you've got a problem, yes, have an x-ray. I think blood tests ought to be done on a regular basis. I don't know whether they needed to be done every year. X-rays I'm not very keen on because I don't know what they actually do to the body. They could cause side effects.
Some people are in fact calling for metal-on-metal hips to be banned. What are your thoughts on that as a metal-on-metal patient? What
are they going to offer as a substitute? I would have to do a bit of homework on that. I mean, if they're going to offer a substitute being ceramic, what's the diff? I mean, is that going to cause problems in the body? Surely all implants have the possibility of causing a problem. I don't think I am the lucky one. I think I am the norm. That metal-on-metal has done a marvellous job for me, and as I say, I see people that have had other things done and it has not lasted as long as mine has. And they have not been able to walk as well, adapt their lives. Well, you don't have to adapt your lives. They've had to adapt their lives. I haven't.